Hello and welcome to the Blockade Runner Plays. This is John, and today we are going to be playing Star Wars for the Nintendo Entertainment System. We're doing this as part of our Power of the 90s series, which we just started last month, and the idea there is to look at all the different Star Wars books and toys and games and comics and really anything Star Wars that happened in each year of the 1990s. There wasn't really anything that I know of in terms of video games in 1990, but 1991 we did have a couple of things, and this is one of them. So Star Wars on the NES. The last Blockade Runner Plays we did was for a Japanese game on the Japanese home computer, the Sharp X68000. I don't think too many of our listeners or viewers were familiar with that game, but this one I think obviously many of us have probably played if we were children when the NES was out. So I don't remember this being necessarily a huge game on the NES, but it's Star Wars, and the NES was such a popular system that I feel like lots of games that probably didn't deserve attention got it anyway, just because there was such a hunger for Nintendo games. And this game is pretty cool. It's pretty good. I think it does deserve attention, but I'm just saying I don't really remember it being like one of the biggest hits on the NES, but I do remember the game from back then, and I have a copy now. I think I came across this game again probably in the early 2000s, picked it up used and played it a bunch then. I don't remember if I played it too much as a kid, but I'm sure I saw it. So we're just in the intro stage here. I'm letting this play a little bit so we can just introduce the game, but we'll get into it now. So cool little NES style cinematic here, simulating the opening of A New Hope. All right, Luke Skywalker and his uncle have purchased the droids from the Jawas. One of them has disappeared. So we get 3PO here telling us that we shouldn't deactivate him, and we're going to have to go find R2-D2. So the game opens up here on Tatooine, and we're going to spend the first most of the playthrough here this morning. We're going to spend going into these caves on Tatooine and trying to get through that portion of A New Hope story. Not that Luke spent a bunch of time in blue caves with green acid dripping down from the ceiling or the roof here, but I think this is a fun way to embellish what happened in A New Hope. So I got a blaster upgrade there. Some of these caves are optional. I won't actually go into all of them. Some of the caves are optional. A couple of them you probably have to do, or definitely have to do. Here we're actually going to go into the Sandcrawler to find R2-D2. And obviously they're gonna take the Sandcrawler location or vehicle from the original Star Wars and sort of video gameize it, which I think is fun, and part of the appeal of playing a game like this. So this game was actually developed in Australia by a developer called Beam, and it was put out, published by JVC, and came out in Japan and the United States in November of '91, and then I think a little bit down the road in Europe too. As far as I understand, the NES was not quite as popular in Europe as it was in the US and of course in Japan. So, but the game did come out there as well. And then there's also a bunch of different versions of this game for other platforms too, which would be fun to play at some point on the Blockade Runner Plays maybe. There's a Game Gear version of the game, a Game Boy version of the game. I think there was a Master System as well. Sega Master System version, and maybe some others. But so yeah, this was a pretty widely distributed game over the course of some years. I think pretty popular on Game Boy, actually. So that might be one to check out, and just read about it on Wikipedia or whatever. And it sounds like there are some bonus levels and differences between some versions of the game. So I know, like, just the experience of playing this for the show here. I've played this section and a couple other sections of the game like quite a few times, and as was the case with lots of NES games, if you play it a bunch, you get really familiar with it, and you sort of have to memorize certain portions of levels and things like that. So you become really familiar with the game. It's not the kind of game where you can play through a level like once and just kind of get through it and make some mistakes, but whatever, you still get through the level. You kind of have to really learn the levels, and I guess my point here is that with a game like that where you really have to sort of learn the levels and how they work, I think it's going to be that much more noticeable if you play a different version of the game and then come across changes or additional content or whatever it may be. So that is something I might try to do down the road. But and there are power-ups I'm missing in this section, but essentially what it came down to for me is if I try to go through and get all the Millennium Falcon shields and some of the different like power-ups and stuff in every level here on Tatooine, it makes it a lot more difficult for me to get through and finish it up. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of a just try to survive playthrough here. So we found R2, and we'll go on to our next mission here. But we'll stop every once in a while and check out a few different caves on the way to our next mission. So we see there's some banthas out here in the Tatooine desert. I think that's a probe droid, and some sort of turrets to deal with there too. One of the things that I looked at while I was playing this game again or prepping to play it, I guess, here for this video, is the Nintendo Power coverage of the game, which I think probably many kids and fans of the game would have used at the time. And there's a pretty good write-up or kind of like mini guide to the game in the September of 91 issue of Nintendo Power. At least that's what it's listed as, is the September 91 issue. It's issue number 28. So from what I was able to find out, this game came out in November of 91, so I guess this would have been some advance coverage of the game. And I will include some either a link to these pages in the in volume 28 of Nintendo Power, or maybe just some PDFs of those pages. But you can actually check it out, which is what I did, is check it out on archive.org. And there are a lot of old Nintendo Power issues up there, including this one. So that is a really fun thing to do, I think, is go back and read old Nintendo Power issues. And I actually thought I had this one here at the house, but or I should say, I'm sorry, not here at the house, here at Blockade Runner headquarters. I thought I had this issue, but I don't right now anyway. So, but I do have the Super Star Wars one, and that'll be coming up on the Blockade Runner Plays pretty soon. So I'll be able to consult that one in the flesh, legit here. But for volume 28, I just looked it up on archive.org, and super convenient to read there. Pulled it up on the iPad. You can like zoom in and out, and it loads really well there too. So it would look good on your phone or whatever. So definitely check that out. It's pretty cool. And I could, I used there's a map here of the Tatooine desert showing where each cave is, which I kind of took advantage of, and kind of helps you figure out where the power-ups are and stuff like that. Definitely a different time, because it's a little, I guess what we would probably say is now is like spoilery, because it kind of shows everything that happens in the first portion of the game, and even later portions of the game too. But these games were tough to the point where you needed that a lot of times, especially as a kid, just to get through it. So you're less worried about, is it going to reveal things that happen later in the game, and more worried about, can this help me get through this thing? So I don't remember being too upset when Nintendo Power showed like a lot of screens, or like kind of revealed a lot about a game. I think that was pretty exciting at the time, and we didn't really worry about it being spoilery. I think of myself as a pretty big Star Wars fan, although I often make some bonehead mistakes when it comes to identifying creatures and stuff like that. But I don't know what these things are. These little sand rodent armadillo things that pop up out of the ground here. So hopefully, I'm not just neglecting to check Wikipedia and find out what these little armadillo guys are, but I think they were probably just made up for the game here. I want to say Nintendo Power refers to them as like rock hounds or something like that. Just took a look back at it. Rock hounds. These dogs live under rock piles and jump out when their prey draws near. Cool. All right, so done with the purple cave, done with the green cave there. Let's see what's next. Another green cave. And we're going to try to complete our mission here on Tatooine. We found R2, so obviously next thing we need to do is find Obi-Wan. There's a shield for the Millennium Falcon, which will come in handy when we are leaving Tatooine in a little bit here. Another really interesting kind of thing I found out as I was researching this game is that there was a kind of mail-away pamphlet, or actually they called it a hint book, a mail-away hint book that was available for this NES Star Wars game. And I don't think I knew about that as a kid. Like I said, I didn't play this too much as a kid. I think I probably came across it or rented it, or maybe a friend had it, but it was much later, 10 years later maybe or more, that I ended up really playing it. But anyway, I was not aware until I started researching that there was this hint book. But apparently what it was is you mailed away for it, and I don't know what it cost, a few bucks or something, and it's like a black and white, looks like it's Xeroxed together like a black and white hint book. So, it would be cool, obviously, to read the hint book and get some help with playing NES Star Wars. But I think at this point, it's pretty collectible, and would just be a cool thing to get a hold of and check out. I was hoping I could find scans of it online, but I didn't see anybody that had posted any scans or anything, so I don't really know what the content of the book is like. But I did find one is being sold on eBay right now, actually, and it's listed for $49.95 with free shipping. So you know what? I am actually tempted, but I probably won't pick it up. But $50 is a lot for like a Xeroxed hint book for a 25-year-old game or whatever it is. So, but it's cool. It is definitely cool, and hopefully one of these days, someone will kind of archive it and scan it and put it up. Because the manual is online. I'll post the manual on our blog alongside this video, so you can find that. And obviously the game is playable on your NES or through other means, but the hint book is kind of lost to the ages right now. I mean, people have it, but it's not widely distributed online, which I think would be cool. If you see me kind of like very slowly sort of like inching forward, And that's just kind of how you have to play this game sometimes. I think what I'm trying to do, like up here, what I'm trying to do is get those flying insect things to come, onto the screen so that I can plan how to avoid them. And here I'm concerned about like this guy showing up. So you kind of have to go slowly and attack on all fronts and do your best there. So I'm at the exit of this cave, but I know I don't have what I need. I have not accomplished what I need to in this cave, so I got to go back. Got to go back and try to find what, or more accurately, who I'm looking for here, right? So there he is, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I'm going to get the lightsaber now, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so we've got some dialogue from the movie here. NES games, I love the sort of cinema cutscenes. I don't know what the right word is for it, but these story sequences where you get these character portraits, and I have to say they're pretty good in NES Star Wars for the most part. I like the way these characters look in these cutscenes. Okay, so I've got my lightsaber, I've got R2, I've got Obi-Wan. Now I think there are a few more caves I could explore here on Tatooine, but like I said, trying to get every cave and every power-up usually just results in me being very dead. So I'm going to skip that for now and just kind of go to my final destination here on Tatooine, which is Mos Eisley. And here we go, Mos Eisley. We're going to start out here, I guess, on the streets of Mos Eisley. But we're going to go into the cantina. And now that I have my lightsaber, I am going to use that weapon instead of my blaster. A lot of these guys with the lightsaber I can take out with just one hit. So obviously you have to get pretty close, but much more powerful and, dare I say, elegant weapon than the blaster I was using before. These purple aliens or droids or whatever they are send out a pretty gnarly laser blast there, and I can't seem to attack those guys, so I just have to avoid them. All right, here we are, Han Solo. This is a great character portrait here, and yes, I am looking to go to the Alderaan system, Han. So now I can play as Han Solo if I would like to, and I would like to because I'm really enjoying this music here, but the blaster Han's blaster just can't compare to Luke's lightsaber, so we're going to switch back to Luke. And I'm kind of tired of the song at this point, so I really would rather play as Han right now, but like I said, need that lightsaber. Okay, so we've got Han, we have Passage to Alderaan, Obi-Wan, R2-D2, things are really coming together here. Just have to get out of the cantina, and then of course find Docking Bay 94. I think this is our first sign of stormtroopers in the game. I like how they're sort of designed in the 8-bit sprite-based style here. It's pretty good look for the stormtroopers. I actually really liked how they looked in the Japanese, the Famicom Star Wars game, which done on Blockade Runner Plays at least a good chunk of it. But I don't want to overlook the fact that I've just killed 2 Boba Fetts. And the enemy is referred to as Boba Fett in the instruction manual, so he got the best of me there. But I guess Boba Fett is just... There's a bunch of Boba Fetts in NES Star Wars 1991. I'm assuming Beam Software and the team that made Star Wars knew a fair amount about Star Wars, but at the time, Boba Fett was a character much more shrouded in mystery than he is now. So the idea that there could have been multiple Boba Fetts or just multiple characters in Mandalorian armor is understandable. I mean, there are now, of course, multiple characters in Mandalorian armor, so... but yeah, like I said, the manual just refers to it as Boba Fett. Alright, only at 54, so I've got quite a few docking bays to go here. Hopefully it won't take too much longer to get where I'm going. And again, you just kind of have to inch forward here. I feel like the strategy in this Star Wars game is either inch forward slowly to avoid blaster fire and enemies, or either that or run as fast as you can. And you have to kind of memorize when to do which of those two things, because if there are enemies coming up that shoot blaster fire like this, then you kind of have to inch forward and plan like when to jump and where to avoid that blaster fire. But sometimes there are enemies that use like more of a melee attack, or you just have to run up to them and get them with your saber before they sort of attack. So here's an example of this. I'm better just sort of racing forward. This guy, I want to inch over to him, but then now the next one I want to just sort of race forward and take him out before he ends up blasting me. But that's the kind of thing you sort of have to play through and know which type of enemy is coming up and which approach to take. So it can definitely be a little bit of trial and error. This section, there are power-ups on different levels, like different levels, vertically speaking here, in the docking bay that it could go for. But again, I'm going to grab at least one shield on the way, but I think I'm better off just kind of getting to my destination, which of course is the Millennium Falcon. Yeah, some of these laser blasts are pretty tough to avoid. I'm sure they are avoidable, but the goal here is just to get to the Falcon with at least a sliver of energy left, of health left. And let that guy go, and here we are. Would have been good for Han to have a different expression there, maybe, but we're off of Tatooine. So now we're on our way, obviously, to Alderaan, and this part is super difficult, and I feel like it just kind of takes the Force to help you get through this part. Definitely the preferred method now is to sort of play through while sort of repeating the mantra of "I'm one with the Force is with me." If you want to survive this section. Honestly, I thought this video would end here. I didn't think I would make it through, but decided to go for it, and we'll see if I can do it. It's just kind of avoiding. You're looking for spots where you don't see any remnants of Alderaan, and basically, if you just aim toward the black of space. That's maybe what you need to do to survive. So I'll continue and see if I can do it here. I should note too, like you get 10 continues in this game, and on the screen there it showed 8. And there may be points where I go into an area and I have 2 lives at the top of the screen, then I come out and I have like 1 life, and you never saw me die. I'm no expert, I'm no savant when it comes to NES Star Wars, so I cut out some of my deaths and stuff just so that you're not watching 5 minutes of the same thing over and over. I'm trying to play through the game relatively quickly, but I'm no speedrunner or NES Star Wars expert who can really like just boot up the game and play through and not lose any lives. So Blockade Runner Plays videos, at least when I do them, I'm just trying to make them more palatable and trying to let you see as much of the game as possible. And I will definitely cut around my mistakes to streamline that process. But this is just my second try, and I have gotten through these remnants of Alderaan, and I'm going to now be pulled in by the tractor beam of the Death Star. All right, so we'll play just for a few more minutes because I can't get too far on the Death Star. At least not yet, anyway. It's going to take some more practice, maybe. So I might revisit this game at some point here on the Blockade Runner Plays. We'll see. Like I said, I think many of us played this as a kid or at some point just because it's on such a prolific and popular system as the NES. But so I'm not as concerned about playing through the entire game necessarily. Just wanted to sort of put some footage up alongside our Power of the 90s series to sort of celebrate the game and put it out there. And, if you listen to the podcast and you want to kind of get a chance to see what it is what we're talking about on the show, then we've got some footage to go along with that. So I don't know that I'll come back and finish the game up on Blockade Runner Plays, but I might. But I feel like this is a pretty good taste of what NES Star Wars is anyways, to play through Tatooine and onto the Death Star here. And we've seen Han, we've seen Luke, but Leia is playable as well in the game. And that's kind of what my goal is right now that I'm on the Death Star, is to locate Leia and free her. As we follow along with the story of A New Hope relatively closely here. If you saw any of the footage I've done so far of the Famicom Star Wars game, you'll know that game does not follow very closely with the story of A New Hope. Takes quite a few chances to exercise creative license. There's a portion where I'm fighting a shark underwater who then becomes, or I should say a Darth Vader lookalike or clone who then becomes a shark. And crazy stuff like that in the Japanese Star Wars game for the Famicom. So this one's a little more straight-laced, a little more just kind of follows the story. And I'm almost 30 minutes in, and it seems like I've reached the end of my my ability to kind of concentrate here and do well, as evidenced by that poor performance there. So play just for another minute or two and try to show off some of these Death Star hallways and rooms. I guess that's a mouse droid with some added functionality we didn't know about in the movie. So, but I think this is as far as I'm going to play here, is to this section of the Death Star. So hope you've enjoyed watching me kind of fumble my way through NES Star Wars here. Like I said, the game is available on a bunch of different platforms. I mean, the NES one is probably pretty easy to track down, but there's a Game Boy version, Game Gear. You can find this game and check it out if you're interested. And if you want to hear more about the other Star Wars product and media coming out in 1990 and 1991, you could check out our first episode of The Power of the 90s, which is up on iTunes and YouTube and on our blog. So, and do check out the blog for, I'll post the manual for this game there. I will post some of that Nintendo Power coverage there. And then, like I said, links to the Power of the 90 episode and stuff like that. So, as always, you can follow us on Twitter at Blockade Run. Subscribe on iTunes, Blockade Runner Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Obviously, this is YouTube, but all of our podcasts are being recorded through YouTube and posted there as well. And you can email us at blockaderunnerpodcast@gmail.com and check out sort of everything we do at blockaderunnerpodcast.com. So thanks very much for watching today, and we'll be back soon with more episodes of the podcast, but also more Power of the 90s and more Blockade Runner Plays video game playthroughs as well.